is a graph that, if you turn to page, you don't see them that often, and in fact, I don't even think I see them in the business world. If you go to page 55, guys, come on. You turn to page 55. This is a stem and leaf plot. Stem and leaf plots are examples of exploratory data analysis, which was developed by John Hickey in 1977. It hasn't been around that long, stem and leaves. I don't really see a lot of uses for stem and leaf, but once we do one, you will kind of see it almost looks like a frequency graph turned sideways. They give a nice little example here. This data set lists the number of text messages sent last week by the cell phone users on the Florida power storm. And you're going to display the data in a stem and leaf. And you're going to look for any commonalities here. So what we're looking at is taking these and looking at all the ones. This is called the leaf part. And then that's called the stem. Your stem can be more than one position. You probably didn't when you were younger. Usually they were pretty simple. But we're looking at all the leaves, kind of like a tree. A tree has a lot of different branches, stems if you will, and the little leaves to it. On each one is a leaf. So these are all the leaves. It's the ones position, the digit number. And there's a couple of common things about these. We'll just go through theirs real quickly and then we'll make one of our own. So what they say to do is to take, and it's in your book, it's right in there, give it a title, it takes the number of text messages, everything needs a title, blah, 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 and it looks just like this. This is the stem. This is the leaf. Now, the stem is just all these two digits. They're usually the tens. So you find the lowest one, which is 78. That means this stem has to be the 70s. We just write the 7. We take all the numbers in the 70s, take all those one digits, and put them in order from lowest to highest. The leaves have to go from lowest to highest. The stems go from lowest to highest. And we only have one in the 70s, so we put an 8. Now, the next number we have is 105. That's the next smallest number. However, you have to include 8, 9, 10. These have to go in order. And the highest number is 159. So you have to include all of those. And I'll show you why in a minute. Because if you didn't, your graph would look like everything was covered. And everything is not covered. So now you go to your 105s, 108, 109. But let's just work on this for 1 second. And you'll see how to make a stem and leaf. So I have a 109. I have a 105, a 109, a 108, a 109. We have 5 entries to put in here. You start with the lowest number, and they will repeat. You need to account for every piece of data. So what is your lowest ones digit here? 5. Then what? 8. Then 9. How many 9s do you have? The key to a stem and leaf is the positioning. You want everything spaced the same way. My next entry has to go right under these. Otherwise, if I cram my next entry in, and I say 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 9, who does it look like it has the most? This guy looks like it has the most, doesn't it? Where in fact this one has the most. So I want to make everything lined up. When I do it, everything has to be lined up. So that now I can see, oh, this row definitely has more than my row. If you take this table, and you turn it sideways, it almost looks like a frequency graph. Doesn't this look almost like the bars, if you will? So they go by tens. So for this guy over here, I have one bar, and I have a couple of blank bars, and I have another bar. Can you tell me which is the biggest bar if I turned it sideways? Which group has the biggest bar? The 120s, right? The 120s have the biggest one. And if I turned it sideways, it would look like a bar graph. I have nothing in here, but I have to keep that open, because otherwise if I didn't, and I pushed them all together, it would look like I covered everybody from 70 to 150, but I didn't. This guy, anybody remember what this guy's called? When it's outside of your data? Outlier, good. This is your outlier. It lies well outside of my data. Well outside, but it still could be a valid number. So what we're going to do is we're going to organize your stem and leaf. We're going to pull off the could be 1 digit, could be 2 digits on the stem, but your leaf has 1 digit. That's the ones digit. Sometimes it's just called a digit number. And we're going to put those in order, and we're going to make sure everything is equally spaced apart. This gives us a stem and leaf. I think what you end up with, if you think about it, if you think about your bar graph, and you put it on its side, and you looked at this, and here's your bars. For the 10s, there's my bar. For the 11s, there's, well, I rerun that one. For this guy, here's my bar. I can tell who has the biggest one, right? What is different than using just a bar graph? Why don't I just use a bar graph and make them go by 10s? What is different about a stem and leaf? That stands out. In a bar graph, if I did this and I said, okay, this is 75, I'm just going to put the 85, 95. I'm just going to put the midpoints. Here's my bar. I've got one of these. I have 1 entry. Here's my bar for my 105s. I have 5 entries. Here's my bar for my next one. I have a little bit more. And I have a lot more. What stands out? What's the difference between this and this? You don't see how many times you repeat. Good. You don't see any of your individual entries on this. I didn't know that this bar had 3 9s in it. I didn't know this bar had 3 9s in it. It didn't have any 1 2s or 3s, right? 1 2 3s or 4s. But I didn't know that by looking at a bar. So the stem and leaf gives you a look at your individual data pieces. I get to see what was the makeup of my data. Where in a bar graph, I don't get to see that. So a stem and leaf has its advantage. I don't see it used too often, but it has a nice advantage that it allows you to look at your data. Also, with a stem and leaf, they generally use a key. They just take 1 and they go like this. A 78 means 78. 10 and a 5 is a 105, just so that you know how to read this. You don't always see a stem and leaf, so it's kind of weird to look at them. Okay, so we're going to try to make one ourselves. We'll make one, and we'll see how that goes. I don't spend a lot of time on these, and I don't really do the double one, but we're going to do your stem and leaf of all your ages from the beginning of the page, from the beginning of the thing. Remember we did your chart with all your ages on it? So we're going to do your ages again. And you can find your ages of, I guess we're going to have to do it tomorrow. I guess we're going to have to do it tomorrow.